Welcome back. We are bringing you a special broadcast live from Beja. Back in the studio, I'm looking at the question of the day. And of course, this is about the water situation in the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality. And we asked, what measures are you taking in your own space in saving water, no matter where you live. But of course, if you live in that area, we would love to hear from you. Shivani, good evening. I think they must stop illegal connections and the municipality must fix the old pipes. Indeed, and Iman and her guests have been talking about the leaks and will continue to do that as well. Ndu, good evening. Full View. I have started to use a bucket to wash my car. I also have a Jojo, a tank in the backyard that collects water from my roof straight to the garden. And that is indeed becoming more popular. Jojo tanks. Boniseni, evening Francis. For me at my place in Malonga village, we don't talk of saving, but we talk of where am I going to get money to buy the few litres to survive, because it's been years since the last time clean water came out of our taps, if not borehole water. Incredible experiences. Olile, good day to you all. Before we talk about saving water, let's first ask about others who don't have water. Response is a big no. I'm talking about people of a village called Malongeni at Eleni in the Eastern Cape. Please provide that constitutional right of water to people in Malongeni now. And a sobering remembrance that some rural areas have indeed been without water for years, and now we are focusing on a big city facing Day Zero. Let's take you back live to Beja to my colleague Iman Rappetti.
Francis, thank you very much for that. And it's heartening to hear that, members of our viewing community are trying to do their bit to preserve water. Well, we've heard from the community here at Tramways in Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape in our partnership broadcast with Coca-Cola Beverages South Africa. So let's talk to the municipality and their accountability and responsibility for the crisis that we find ourselves in. And Joseph Tsatsire is the Director for Water Distribution in the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality. Joseph, thank you very much for being with us this evening. Government stands accused really of not listening and of not really trying to preempt one of the worst disasters in your metro's history. The drought, we understand, it's out of your control, but managing available water is in your control. How do you defend yourself against a record of mismanagement?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Water disruption, drought being experienced in the Eastern Cape, and the intermittent supply are lived experiences. As attested by some of the communities here today, we are currently experiencing water disruption as a result of a 7-year drought, which has been obviously coming since 2015. We since last have rainfall that filled our dams in September 2015. And thereon we have actually been having a downward trend in terms of the dam levels. And obviously that comes with the challenges, in terms of provision of water in the city. As we are currently sitting here, the current consumption of the city is sitting at around 265 megalitres on a daily basis. And the available production, obviously based on the restriction provided from the Department of Water and Sanitation, is 230. It therefore means that we have got a deficit in the system. And how are we managing that deficit? It's through our reservoir systems. We've got plus or minus 79 reservoirs in the city. And obviously on a daily basis, we actually operate the system to ensure that we avoid, intermittent supply.
Joseph, I want to stop you there because I asked a question about how you defend yourself against mismanagement. What you're talking about to me is about a history and awareness around the drought. You're talking about infrastructure, but the real issue around infrastructure is that it's ailing and it hasn't been well maintained, and that's your responsibility. Okay,
so obviously as part of any water utility, we have got a maintenance regime of our infrastructure. Resources and budgets are provided over financial year. Obviously, because we've got competing needs for the municipality in terms of service delivery, it's not always adequate to provide budgets that are adequate to actually rehabilitate your infrastructure. So time and again, we do rehabilitate infrastructure. But obviously, we experience backlogs on a year-on-year basis. And this is actually resulting, in some of our infrastructure failing. But obviously, there's quite a lot of work that is happening to ensure that we rehabilitate infrastructure.
Again, the fact that we're facing the prospect of a crisis, of a day zero, and you have families in this audience who are saying, our children have gone without water. There are communities like Chris Hani cut off for months and months on end. That is not an answer to them.
Probably I need to just, rectify the statement that Chris Hani is not as a result of day zero. There was a system problem in the system. There was a blockage, and that has been rectified. And obviously, they are actually getting water as we speak. I was addressing that community on Friday last week, telling them exactly what was the problem in terms of that. But again, there's quite a number of interventions, again, from a supply side that we are actually doing to avoid the day zero we are talking about. I mean, we have heard, from the weather services that on every 4 years we experience drought. And I think since 1992, for example, we have started one of the biggest schemes from the Orange River system to augment the city with water. And that is actually technical interventions that is being provided by technical teams competent to actually do work so.
That is one solution which I'm going to talk about in just a moment, but it certainly hasn't been enough, Joseph. And you have to admit that, and that's partly what's missing in our conversation. This admission that there has been a mess up, that your department, that you in charge have messed up, that you have to fall on your sword to the community. And I'm hoping that before the end of our conversation, we can actually see that level of empathy come from you. But before we go there, you talked about new infrastructure, and I'm talking about Nooit Gedag now, being part of that new infrastructure, bringing water from the Gariep Dam into the city. Where is that water going? Which parts of the city?
Obviously, that currently is going mostly to the western side of the city, as well as going to Kariega, Dispatch, as well as, Mother Blue Water Bay, those areas. But I think we have created, the flexibility in the infrastructure to move water around. And we are able actually to take water from the eastern side, that is the Gariep system, into the western side of the city. Ordinarily, we would actually have supplied those areas with water from the Churchill and Mpofu Dam.
Well, let's talk about, for those of us who don't know the geography of this area very well, those areas that you talked about now, that Nooit Gedag is supplying, are those mixed areas, both those who are wealthy and those who are not?
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
Let's talk about how the existing infrastructure, which is aging, copes with the inflows from the new infrastructure. Is it up to the task? Is there not going to be sort of massive wastages? You heard from one of the community members about gushing water where she is. The problem isn't just leaks, it's water that's simply being wasted in this water scarce environment.
From the bulk distribution point of view, we have got, infrastructure that can transfer, that is adequately transfer water from the east to west, and that infrastructure is in sound condition. Obviously, we use also pumps. These are mechanical equipment. Time and again, we have failures. But I think what is important is the maintenance and routine of actually how we rehabilitate those infrastructures.
I want to quickly go to the issue of boreholes, and we know that a few boreholes have been sunk in the area. How's that water being integrated into the system, and where's that going, Joseph? As
part of our augmentation scheme, we have actually, identified through a study which we again did in 2010, after another drought, we actually identified areas through a geohydrologist, areas that can actually give us high yield of water. And one of the areas is Mother Kuchakop, where we have actually sunk 5 production boreholes that give us an equivalent of 12 megaliters on a daily basis. And that water is actually putting into our distribution system through the transfer system which I talked about from east to west. We have got bulk reticulation pipe that's going to take that water to the west as well as other areas in Utnek and Kariega as well.
Has it already started? Is the water already in the system and moving to its destination?
No, we are completing treatment works for that because there is iron and manganese which we need to remove from water. And we are, by end of September, we should be commissioning and getting the first water from that system.
So what are you going to do in the meantime? Because we've been talking about day zero. We've been talking about taps running dry. We heard from a climatologist, a weather expert a little bit earlier on, that we're going to have this extreme between scarcity and possible flooding, and your infrastructure certainly not going to be up to that challenge. How are you going to mitigate that?
So in the short term, What is important is that we need to reduce our consumption. As I have said, there is a collaboration effort that we require from residents as well as the municipality to reduce consumption. You have talked of artificial, consumption that is lost through leaks, for example. The municipality has got a responsibility to ensure that you fix leaks. And one of
but
the
you've
efforts,
not really been up to the task of fixing the leaks.
Let me give you the facts and figures. Out of the work that we are currently doing, we have augmented our capacity in order to deal with leaks. As from the 20th of June, we have done just under 8,000 of leaks which are fixed, in communities. We are actually commissioning leaks in townships to ensure that, we deal with leaks, and that from where we are seated, we have reduced the turnaround time in terms of dealing with significantly. We are on average doing 3 to 4 days to actually get to a leak that has been reported.
Again, to go back to what Garth was telling us a little bit earlier on, we saw in KZN massive loss of life, massive damage to infrastructure, and one of the key culprits is poor infrastructure, not being able to manage and evacuate the waters that were coming down. Are you prepared for such an eventuality here in the Eastern Cape?
So,
in Gqeberha, sorry.
From an engineering perspective, we need to qualify some of these statements. The infrastructure that we design, the road network and the stormwater networks, for example, are designed for a 1 in 5 year event. And if we actually receive 1 in 50, for example, that's going to flood. That's what happens in KZN. There is no engineering infrastructure that has been designed in the country in terms of standards to be able to handle that. So at some point, we have got adequate infrastructure that we need possibly to maintain to ensure that if we receive rainfall that we are receiving, we are able to take the water away.
So is that a guarantee that you're up to it if something happens like that?
Obviously, there is maintenance that carry on to happen on a day-to-day basis. Our Roads and Stormwater Department is actually entrusted to be doing that.
Joseph, we spoke to some members of the community who said you're not taking them into your confidence. The city is not taking them into their confidence. They're not being told what's going on or what to expect. How are you going to build that connection between your key stakeholder, which is the community?
I think part of that problem is for us to be able to tell the story in terms of what we are doing. And I can mention now, for example, from an augmentation point of view, for us to actually to give more water into reticulation system. There's quite a number of projects that we are currently involved in. Firstly, the Noikatak Phase 3 is a project that we have commissioned, which we have actually handed over now as we speak. It's going to give us 70 megaliters on a daily basis, in addition to what we are currently having.
You're telling me this. Do they know?
This is part of the public participation. We engage communities through yourselves. And you also act as a mouthpiece in terms of what we deliver messages. And currently, as we speak, we are educating communities. As part of our communication strategies, there is a communication element, education and awareness, where we engage media as well as part of us talking to the media.
And
so
you're
that's
right.
That's the first. The Noikatak treatment works. The Kukakop, the boreholes, which I've talked about, giving us 12 megaliters on a daily basis. We've got another set of boreholes, the Bushy Park, that's going to give us 10 megaliters on a daily basis. And we have got the St. George's boreholes, that's going to give us 4 megaliters. And lastly, the Mogro, that's going to give us again another 2 megaliters. And in total, the water that we're going to be bringing into the reticulation is 45 megaliters by September. And this is part of the intervention that we are doing from a technical team, which is actually working very hard to ensure that we push away Day Zero. And from a reduction point of view, there's quite a number of projects that we're actually doing. One, fixing leaks, and I've talked about the turnaround in terms of the reducing the turnaround times in order to fix leaks and reduce artificial consumption. And again, from a reduction point of view, we are involved in actually looking at biggest consumers and actually restrict them to a threshold of 9 kiloliters per person per day. And these are some of the interventions that are currently happening. And to a great extent, they've actually yielded a reduction of consumption. From the beginning of the year, we are actually consuming plus or minus 300 megaliters of water, and now it's about 265.
Joseph, and I appreciate you sharing that information with us. The media is only one part of how you talk to people. People don't only need to be talked to through their television or through their radios. How many of you have heard from the municipality? Just a quick show of hands. around these plans, around water provision. I'd like our cameras to look at the audience and look and give us a sense of the question that I'm asking. How many of you feel that the municipality is including you in their provision plans? We have one or two people.
But these are the people that are here on the television, but there are people out there as well that we are reaching actually
it's a
through
microcosm.
other...
It's a microcosm, Joseph. And that's the thing, is to say that where you might be getting it right, there are other areas where there's room for work and improvement. And I think that's the acknowledgement that people want, that this is a difficult task and you can do better. Do you believe that the municipality can do better?
So, probably what I'm going to say is that the conventional way of distributing water is through pipe system. And everybody expects to open a tap and water comes out of the tap. But with the drought that we are currently experiencing, we are actually going to be forced to distribute water through other modes, which comes with its own challenges. And it's not only the challenge of volumes, there's quality that's going to be compromised. There is, again, reaching people that's going to be a problem. And all this one has to manage. And this is not a normal way of actually doing this.
Joseph, thank you very much for being open and for joining us on our panel and sharing that information. We're going to hold you accountable. We'll be back by September to see if what you're saying has come to fruition. Appreciate you tonight. Joseph Tsatsire is the Director for Water Distribution here in the Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality. We'll take a short break and we'll be back straight after.